Imagine being a 9th century English priest, looking out your church window in complete horror. Are foreign warships burning down the countryside again? No, something far worse is happening. Every single local woman in your village is ignoring the hard-working local men and flirting with a group of tall Norse raiders. Why? Because the raiders smell like fresh mountain pine, their hair is meticulously braided, and their fingernails are spotless. The priest quickly scribbles a frantic warning in his diary, claiming these dangerous invaders are using an unfair dark magic to steal local hearts. That dark magic was called taking a bath once a week. Now, to understand how an entire nation of ruthless warriors conquered Britain using shampoo and personal hygiene, we have to throw away everything pop culture taught us. When you think of Vikings, you probably picture greasy men wearing horned helmets, covered in dried mud and raw meat, roaring at the sky. But horned helmets were never real, and the grease myth was mostly invented by their terrified, unwashed enemies. In reality, while most of medieval Europe viewed water as a dangerous substance that spread deadly plague, the Norse people were obsessed with personal grooming. They took immaculate care of themselves, and it gave them a massive psychological advantage over every kingdom they visited. When modern archaeologists dig up ancient Viking burial sites, they expect to find rusted iron broadswords, battle axes, and splintered wooden shields. Instead, the most common objects pulled from the cold dirt are delicate grooming kits. Archaeologists consistently unearth beautifully carved animal bone combs, iron tweezers, fingernail cleaners, and customized razors. In fact, these personal hygiene tools show up far more often than weapons. A Norse warrior would never step onto a battlefield without his trusty comb tucked neatly into his belt pouch. And buried alongside these items was a mysterious tiny metal scoop that confused historians for decades. But we will get to that strange tool in just a moment. To a Norseman, hair was everything. A man with messy or unkempt hair was considered dishonorable and lazy. That is why bone combs were so valuable that master craftsmen carved them out of deer antlers, complete with intricate, protective wooden cases so they would not break during violent raids. Having your own personal comb was not a luxurious status symbol saved for wealthy kings. Everyone had one, from the poorest farmer to the fiercest warrior. Regular combing kept hair looking neat, but more importantly, it removed lice and dirt after long ocean voyages. If you dropped a Viking on a remote deserted island, his first instinct would probably be to comb his beard. In medieval Europe, bathing was seen as a strange and dangerous activity that opened your body pores to evil air. Kings and nobles often boasted about only washing their faces twice a year. The Norse culture completely rejected this smelly tradition. They designated a specific day of the week entirely to personal hygiene. In Old Norse, Saturday was called Laugardagor, which literally translates to washing day. Every single Saturday, without exception, entire villages gathered at nearby rivers, lakes, or natural hot springs to scrub themselves down. They soaked in hot water, washed their clothes, and scrubbed their skin clean. To this day, the word for Saturday in Scandinavian languages still means bath day. Bath day was not just about water, it was a full spa experience involving heavy chemistry. The ideal beauty standard for Norse men and women was bright blonde hair. If a warrior was born with dark hair, he did not worry. He simply reached for a block of custom lye soap. This high potash soap acted as a powerful natural bleach, turning dark locks bright yellow over time. But this harsh chemical soap had a secret second function. The concentrated lye killed off head lice and skin parasites instantly. So while English knights were scratching their itching heads under heavy helmets, Viking raiders were strutting around with clean, parasite-free golden blonde hair. Remember that mysterious tiny metal scoop found in Viking graves that puzzled archaeologists for decades? Historians eventually realized it was a dedicated ear spoon designed specifically for removing earwax. While the rest of Europe was walking around with clogged ears and filthy nails, Norse citizens used tiny silver spoons to keep their ears clean. They also carried specialized tweezers to pluck stray facial hairs and shape their eyebrows. They paid attention to every microscopic detail of their appearance. When a Norseman walked into a room, he was not just imposing because of his battle axe. He was polished, well-groomed, and smelled faintly of floral-scented oils. In the year 865, a massive Norse army landed on the beaches of England. The Anglo-Saxon locals expected brutal monsters covered in mud. Instead, they got an army of fashion icons. The Vikings brought clean linen tunics, fresh leather boots, and their beloved Saturday bath routine. The contrast was devastating. English men of the era washed their hands before dinner if they were feeling extra polite, but almost never fully immersed themselves in water. Suddenly, local Saxon women noticed that the newly arrived Norsemen smelled good, brushed their hair daily, changed their clothes frequently, and possessed all 10 clean fingernails. A famous medieval English chronicler named John of Wallingford wrote down a furious complaint that still survives in history books. He wrote that the invaders, thanks to their habit of combing their hair daily, bathing every Saturday, and changing their clothes, were able to undermine the virtue of local married women and convince highborn daughters to run away with them. The monks were absolutely beside themselves with envy, watching their own female populating choose clean invaders over local lords. It turns out that washing your body was the ultimate strategic advantage in 9th century geopolitics. If you think staying clean to win history is hilarious, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You might wonder how Vikings maintained this high standard while sailing across the freezing Atlantic Ocean or navigating narrow Russian rivers. The answer is simple discipline. Even aboard longships, crew members packed wooden water buckets, wash basins, and spare clothes. When they settled in cold places like Iceland, they built thermal bathhouses over natural geothermal springs, creating the world's first luxury saunas. They would sweat out toxins in hot steam, jump into cold water, and scrub down with lye soap. Cleanliness was integrated into their religious mythology. According to Old Norse poems, even the god Odin washed his hands and combed his hair before attending important divine council meetings. Of course, cleanliness is relative. When an Arab diplomat named Ahmad ibn Fadlan visited Rus Vikings along the Volga River in the 10th century, he was appalled by one specific habit. He wrote that the warriors shared a single large water basin every morning to wash their face and blow their noses, passing the bowl from person to person. To a sophisticated traveler from the Islamic world, where running water and daily washing was required by religion, this shared bowl routine looked disgusting. But compared to Western Europeans who avoided water entirely, the Vikings were still centuries ahead. They at least attempted a group wash every single morning. This hilarious historical reality teaches us a surprisingly deep lesson about human nature and how history is written. The English monks wrote historical accounts painting the Vikings as chaotic, filthy savages because it made their enemies look subhuman. Yet, those same monks secretly complained that the clean invaders were stealing all the local women with basic hygiene. We often assume that major world events are decided solely by heavy swords, brilliant tactical maneuvers, or political alliances. But human beings are fundamentally wired to respond to simple details like presentation, effort, and respect for oneself. Small daily habits often exert a far bigger influence on culture than bloody battles. So the next time you step into a warm shower on a Saturday morning, remember that you are participating in a proud Norse tradition that once drove medieval English monks to tears. Taking care of yourself is not just good hygiene, it is a historical superpower that literally conquered kingdoms. Which historical myth should we bust open next? Tell me down in the comments, hit the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another ridiculous true story. Until next time, stay clean and keep exploring history.